Welcome to Different Facets of Happiness, where we dive deep into self awareness. Today, our guest is Sophia Demas. Sophia has spent years uncovering the profound ways that miracles show up in her lives, proving that transformation is not only possible, but inevitable when we open our minds to it. Get ready for an inspiring conversation that just might shift your perspective on what's possible. Let's dive in. Sophia, welcome to my show. How are you?
I am great, and I want to thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. And I am great that you decided to be on my show. Thank you so much. And again, welcome. So, before I ask you questions about miracles and coincidences and your two books, The Divine Language of Coincidence and Consciousness Beyond Death, your life journey has been incredibly diverse, from architecture to fashion, therapy, and now writing. If you can look back, can you pinpoint the first moment when you felt something bigger was guiding your path?
Well, first of all, I come from a very religious family, Greek Orthodoxy. My mother was very religious. And so she presented Jesus and the Virgin Mary as my friends. Okay. So Greek is my first language. And so any word in Greek can be made into the diminutive. So, like you have a glass, and then you can be cute and say the little glass. Somebody asked me about what they asked me was, okay, everybody has a miracle story or a coincidence story, but the number of stories that you have experienced are just pretty incredible. What do you attribute it to? And this is what brought me to crediting my mother. Okay. So what she would say to me, she never pushed it on me, but she would say, since I was a toddler, now, if you want anything, you just ask little baby Jesus. He loves children and you can ask him for anything you want. And then, if you're scared, you know how sometimes you get scared at night? Just ask for the protection of the little Virgin Mary. So what happened from a very, very young age, it was presented to me that communication with unseen beings is perfectly normal. There was always this was there for me. But it was when I was 19 that I realized that this thing that is bigger than me has my back. Something happened there, 19, where I was going through two issues, sort of I was experiencing this existential angst over these two issues that I believe to be unsolvable. Okay. And within 2 months, as a result of meeting this man and having this dream, those two issues evaporated and I was transformed. I experienced a transformation. I entered womanhood. I was a different person. And that was not lost on me. That was big. And so what that just started the ball rolling. And then I would pay attention when these things that were what I considered bigger than me happened. And they just kept happening. And I would tell my friends about the latest miracle, and they would all go, well, these things only happen to you, which kind of annoyed me because I'm not special. I'm not a guru or a saint. So that's how it all began.
I have so many questions. Many people experience coincidences and brush them off. But what was the moment that actually convinced you that coincidences were actually part of a deeper language? Was it what happened to you at age 19?
That was the beginning. That was the beginning. And then every time I would experience a miracle, then, it would be like validating, you know, that this was going on. Okay. And more kept happening.
So, when you set out to write your book, The Divine Language of Coincidence, did you already have a clear sense of what you wanted to convey, or did the book itself lead you to unexpected discoveries?
Yes. You just expressed my writing of the book as another miracle. No, I did not want to write a book, okay? It was just the idea was just so unappealing to me. And a medium that I met, like, I don't know, 18 years ago, I had no desire to go to a medium, but that story is pretty incredible because whatever's bigger than us brought us together. And she told me that I was going to write a book. And I remember going, I said, I'm telling you right now, I said, that is not in the cards. Okay. I said, I have nothing to write about. And I'm a people person. I mean, there's no way I'm going to sequester myself somewhere and write. She let me argue. And then she said, word for word, Spirit says, when she's ready, there are many spirits here to help her and many hands on her. So in 2011, I was reconnecting with a childhood friend and I told her about my latest miracle. And she says, oh, these things only happen to you. Well, something clicked and I started thinking about it. Like, yeah, I mean, other people have told me their experiences, but I can't, all of a sudden it was just kind of like this waterfall, of,
Yeah.
oh, So what I did is I listed all the miracles I could think of that happened to me. And by miracle, I mean getting exactly what you need at just the right time. Okay. And then I realized that what preceded each miracle was a coincidence. And when I discovered that it was taking action on the coincidence that brought about the miracle. So when I realized that, I thought, whoa, these things, it's your attitude towards this. These things are accessible to everyone. And that is when I decided to write the book so I could share these possibilities.
So I'm going to paraphrase what you said the miracle is getting exactly what you need at the time that you need it. Do you ask for it? Do you have to ask for a miracle or a blessing or for help?
Well, that's one way to, yes, I've asked. I keep asking all day long. But then here's my belief system. Okay. I believe that this divine intelligence, God, whatever you want to call it, knows better than us what is best for us and communicates with us through very, very clever ways. Okay, via dreams or meeting a stranger that says exactly what you needed to hear, or by placing these coincidences in our paths to nudge us to take action. And then once we take action, it may not happen just then, but it will happen at the right time. Just no trace of doubt that I haven't been guided. So divine intelligence wants our happiness and wants us to find our true purpose. And so the more you align with divine intelligence and you take action, then what happens is you co create the miracle with the divine.
Your second book, Consciousness Beyond Death, takes your exploration further. Did writing your first book prepare you for the deeper themes of your second, or did new experiences lead you to it?
No, it was very simple, actually. The first book took 8 years to write, and it was just, I think it was like over 700 pages, like way too many events to cram into one book. So what I did is I went back and plucked out all the events that had to do with death. So the book was basically almost all written for me, and then there were some new events. So from the second book, 7 out of the 10 chapters are my experiences,
Mhm.
and 3 are very, very close friends, and I can't pick which one is the strangest.
Well, your book suggests that signs and miracles are happening all the time, but we
Oh,
often notice them. So, do you think it's because we're distracted, or do you believe that there's a reason why some people are more attuned than others?
it's a practice. It's like the more you it's kind of like the snowball thing where the more when you see the or experience the coincidence, and I can give you some examples, and you take the action and then you get what you want. All of this is communicated through your inner voice, your intuition. So then next time the coincidence happens and you have this in almost every case, I never had to go, should I take action? Should I not take action? The fact that it was bigger than me, just I just did. And then you trust yourself more and more and more. And so and also when you said about asking. So the first book, since it's a memoir, it's basically all the events are basically chronological, except for two chapters. One is titled Please, which is about prayer, and the other one is Thank You, about gratitude.
Mm.
And really, that's all you have to do. I mean, I keep asking, it doesn't have to be formal prayer, although I do have formal prayers. Okay. And it's very important for your audience to understand that I did not write this book to convince people. Okay. It's basically, well, this is what worked for me. This is what works for me. So asking, just keep asking and keep saying thank you. I say thank you all day long.
Yeah. You worked with Buckminster Fuller, a man known for visionary thinking. Did your time with him shape your openness to seeing patterns in the universe?
I'll tell you, Bucky, I could never call him Bucky. Everybody else called him Bucky, but me, I call him Dr. Fuller. I couldn't. He was one, he never preached, but he was one of the most spiritual people I have ever met. So, from being introduced to his work, I was studying in Italy, and one of my roommates asked me one night if I could be with anybody dead or alive for a half an hour, who would it be? I have no idea what I said. It doesn't matter. So I said, well, who would it be for you, Ward? And he goes, Buckminster Fuller. And I thought, I knew that he had invented the geodesic dome.
Mhm.
But from all people, dead or alive, you're going to pick him? Well, he just gets up, goes to his room, and comes and brings me this little thin book called No Secondhand God. And it's a 39-page poem. And I read this thing and I'm like, oh, wow, who is this guy? And I started reading everything about him, and he became my idol. And then, as the universe would have it, a series of events brought me to him, or him to me. He came and lectured at my school. And that's when for one, that's when I decided to go into architecture,
Yeah.
change my major. And we had started a friendship and then a correspondence. And then he asked me to work with him when I got out of school. Now, how does that work that you get to work with your idol?
Yeah. Yeah. That is a miracle in itself.
It's a big fat.
Yes. Yes. Do you think miracles are meant for personal transformation, or do they serve as a larger universal purpose?
It's a form of communication. It's like, we say please and thank you. The universe communicates with us. And that's one way the universe communicates. Now, I do have to say that there's coincidence
Yeah.
and meaningful coincidence. Okay.
Can you explain the difference?
Okay. So I don't know, it's a few days ago. I'm typing and I think the word was transcendental. I don't know. It was a word that I use, but it's not like an everyday word. And the second I typed it, somebody said transcendental on the TV. And I went, wow, that's a coincidence. But so what? You know,
Yeah.
but a meaningful coincidence is one that you can't fail to recognize that it's a gift. So, and I could give some of those, but I also believe that this divine intelligence puts obstacles in our path as well
Why?
to save us from ill. I mean, I'm going to give you an example of that. Okay. I'm going to give you a really big example. How many times have I said, "Oh God, why are you doing this to me?" And either the next day or 2 years down the line, I have thanked God for that obstacle. It kept me from dangerous men or men that ended up dead or going to jail. It, it, I can't even death. And that's the one I would like to give you an example.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. And also, I believe that one miracle is not better or worse than another miracle, or bigger or less. They're all the same. Okay. If they end up giving you what you need, they're all the same, even if it's a little thing or a huge thing. So there were two things that happened that are absolutely incredible, that gave me exactly what I needed for my wedding. It was unbelievable because my fiance and I decided to get married on 4th of July, and the date we picked was 4th of October, and that's just 3 months. So it was like the venues were taken, musicians were taken. Well, these two miracles, I mean, these two amazing coincidences, one brought about someone giving me the ballroom at the Barclay Hotel, which is here in Philadelphia. It's just this old world hotel that's now condominiums. He gave me the ballroom for the wedding reception.
Mm.
And other one, because of this incredible coincidence, the woman that I ended up meeting, she was a concert violinist, and she got her friend who played the classical guitar to play my favorite piece of music while I go down the aisle, Concierto de Aranjuez. So, okay, so there you go.
Yeah.
This obstacle happened as we were on our way to Mexico for our honeymoon. Okay, so my friend would summer in this place in southern Mexico between Huatulco and Puerto Escondido, and it's owned by this cordon bleu chef, and there are 9 huts, and it's just charming with flowers and overlooking the ocean, and she was very instrumental in introducing us. And so we booked the room for our honeymoon. And I was so excited. I had seen pictures and everything. And she had a friend who had a resort in Puerto Escondido. But we decided to fly into Huatulco. So I had heard that you didn't need a passport to get into Mexico. So I didn't bother renewing my passport.
Uh-oh.
Right. My husband had a passport. Okay. So just a driver's license, and US driver's license gets you in. So we go to the airport, and I'm asked for my passport, and I said, "Well, you don't have to have a passport to go into Mexico." And he says, "You're right, but you need one to come back into the United States."
Oh gosh.
So, oh no, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, we had it all planned out that that night we were going to stay in Mexico City, go out and have this wonderful dinner. And then the next day at 1 o'clock, we're going to take this flight to Huatulco and then take the bus to this little resort, charming resort. I was so upset. So, but I had my birth certificate, and that counts. Okay.
Right.
So we drive home, take a taxi home. There's no way we're going to make the plane. I was so depressed I couldn't move. I would just sat on this couch, absolutely depressed. And finally, Frank said, "Hey, let's just take the next flight to Mexico City and just have oh no, I'm sorry, we were going to go straight. We were going to go Mexico City and then take that flight that day to Huatulco." So he says, "Why don't we just find a place we have dinner in Mexico City and then we fly the next day. Great. So we do this and found this fantastic hotel and had a great dinner. And the next day, we go to get on a flight to Huatulco. And we are told, I'm sorry, there is no more flights to Huatulco because there's a hurricane. I said, I don't care. This is my honeymoon. I said, I want to go. And he goes, okay, look. He says, in 20 minutes, the plane to Puerto Escondido is taking off. So see if you can get on that one. So we run over to the gate. Yeah. And we get on the plane. We get on the plane. So we're entering Puerto Escondido, and I knew something was wrong when the palm trees are like this, going one way.
Yeah.
But we had the address of my friend's friend who has this resort. So we go to the resort, and it's absolutely stunning, absolutely stunning. And we're going to have lunch under this sort of grass roof. Yep. And so we're having our lunch. And then I knew for sure something was wrong when one of the pieces of grass from the roof came into my soup. Okay. And I am seeing these waitresses, just scuttling about. So I thought, uh-oh. So I grabbed the waitress and I said, we'd like to order for dinner. And we had brought wine from the wedding.
Mhm.
So he says, well, the kitchen is closed. The chef is just making lunch for us. I said, what's he making? And she says, potato omelets. I said, we'll take two. We'll do two potato omelets. Okay, so we go there. They're off. We go to our room. Oh, my God. I mean, it was like something like 300 people died around us.
Oh, jeez.
We were in a cove. And we made the most of it. We were given candles. That night, we had a candlelight dinner with our wine. The toilet stopped flushing. And then we discovered the next morning that they didn't know how many people had died at that point, but it was absolutely horrific. So the road to our honeymoon place was non-existent. So we thought, okay, we got on the plane and went to Oaxaca for 4 days. And we had a great time, came back and decided to go take the bus to the place where we were going to have our honeymoon. And we get there and we find out that there's only 2 huts standing. They've all mudslided down the hill, whatever that was. And there were a Canadian couple, the 2 people that worked there, and the owner, and I believe 2 more. And they were all sleeping in one hut because the other one was damaged. So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, had we gotten if I had my passport or it was whatever was told to me was the truth, we could have died.
Yes.
So
Oh my God.
I say thank you, God. So that's the it's it and then what happens, spirituality is a journey. Okay? And I have broken it down to 3 parts. Okay, the first part, the basic part is living your life from the perspective of wishful thinking. Okay, so you're wishing for something. You're having the dream to do something. You go, wow, that's a wild dream. You don't do it. You have the coincidence confronting you. You don't take action. You keep wishing. You keep getting another little coincidence. You keep wishing, and there you go. Then, hopefully, you'll progress to the second level, which is from the perspective of hope. Okay, now you've got the picture. You know that, oh, this coincidence, I'm going to take action, and hopefully, I will get the miracle. But then at the top is the position of faith.
Yes.
Now, you don't have to worry about anything. If you asked, if you get it, it's meant to be. If you get something else, maybe that's even better. And if you don't get it at all, it's okay because it could be to your detriment. So this way, you align yourself with divine intelligence
Yes.
and you co-create together.
Oh, I had a question for you, and I was just so wrapped up in what you're saying. So would you say, and do you believe that nothing happens before its time?
Yes, but you have to be in tune to get that. When you say that, do you mean can you
Yeah.
qualify that?
And what I mean by that is that if it's for you, it will be for you. But you have to go through a period of development and be ready to accept it, taking action, right? But having the faith and knowing that it's yours. If it's
Yes.
for you, nothing can stop it.
And the thing is that this divine intelligence is so clever in how these coincidences are presented to you. Okay, now I am going to tell you there were three coincidences, incredible coincidences, okay, that saved my marriage. Okay. So my husband, he's a very mild mannered man, very kind and compassionate. But I discovered this early on. He had some anger issues. He was a bona fide rager. So he would just, I mean, I would do something innocent, like cross my eyes or something, some gesture. And would be absolutely convinced that I was putting him down. And the more I would say, but I'm not, that's not what oh no, then he would get more enraged. And and the reason why I stayed was because I saw how much he wanted the relationship and what he was willing to do about it. He found this perfect therapist. Then he found this men's group that was comprised of all these ragers, and he became the poster boy. And but he continued to go through these events. So finally, I had enough, and it's like, see you, and I can leave because I can. So I left him, and I moved in with my friend who was going through her divorce. So, okay, 3 things happened, okay, and I'll just try to just do them in, like, bullet points.
Okay.
The Okay, the first one, now are you familiar with A Course in Miracles?
No.
Oh, okay, well, that's a whole chapter in my book because of this
Right.
book that I stumbled on that has transformed my life, okay? And it took me a year and 8 months of resistance to read the book because it looked too much like the Bible. And it's Christ's voice. And it was and one of the reasons that had resistance towards it is because there's no author. It was channeled through this person. I mean, Jesus could not have picked a better person. First of all, she was on the faculty of the psychiatric department of Columbia University. So she has a lot of risking, for her to channel this book. And she's part Jewish and an atheist. So how cool is that? Anyway, it took her 7 years to channel the book. But anyway, I got into it's very convoluted, but the second time I read it, I was in heaven. I was in heaven. And so I had a thing of opening the book and reading and having whatever it said I had to do. Okay. So I I was at a point where I never wanted to see this jerk ever again. Okay.
Sorry, you're
And
talking about your husband?
husband.
Okay. Okay. Just wanted to be clear. Okay.
Okay. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna open the book and see what the new chapter of my life is like. I swear to you, I opened the book to a chapter titled The Healed Relationship. I'm like, no. no, but I have to read it, right? That's so I'm reading this book and I am countering what I'm reading. I go, no, no, you don't know that my situation is different. Then the next paragraph would counter what I just said. I found myself having a debate with a book and really, whatever meaning the meaning that I took from it, because every time you read it, you can get another meaning, was God is in everyone. And if your brother comes to you with his hand outstretched to make contact and you say no to your brother, you say no to God. Oh, okay. I thought it's not anything off my back. If he calls, he wants to talk, I'll talk to him. He called the very next day.
No, he didn't.
He said he wanted to get together and talk. I said, okay. So I have him come over and I had him sit on the other side of the dining table. I wanted something between us. And I was angry, Jackie. I said, I want you to know that the only reason that you are sitting across from me is because of a miracle. So he says, well, I have a miracle for you too. This is not his lingo.
Hmm.
I said, okay, you first. Tells me that he was working in the garden, taking apart our water fountain. And the water fountain is a basin with a very tall cement column. So the water comes out of the column, hugs the column, and goes into the basin. He said, I was taking it apart to fix the uh, the pump.
Yeah.
He said, and the column fell on my hand. Now, my eyes dart to his hand because if that was true, his hand should be hamburger. Okay. I see like a bruise with a very faint scratch. And as he's talking, he's taking off his wedding band and he shows it to me and it was squashed. His wedding band took the weight of that column.
Wow.
I see. Okay. See, I needed something that dramatic to be disarmed
Yeah. Yeah.
and soften up.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, his wedding band? I mean, can you get more, you know, like
Yeah.
you can't, you can't. So we started seeing each other and we got back together. And then that December, and I was supposed to go to Maui to be the maid of honor for my best friend for the third time. So I wanted to take him along, but I had a lot of trepidation because he had a history of sabotaging romantic getaways. And I finally decided, no, I'm going to ask him and trust. I'll just trust, you know, we can always go back, but we're trust. So we are about to go into the taxi, and I went, "Oh my god, I need reading material." Okay, I mean this is 14 hours from,
Yeah.
Philadelphia. So I had a shelf where I had 7 books that I had started to read, but hadn't finished, and I just grabbed one. And then when I was in the cab, I was so disappointed that I had picked "Endless Energy" by Dr. Deborah Green, and I'm like, oh, this is not a beach read, I should have gotten the novel. So here I am on the plane with this book. So I started reading about these auras and this energy. She's a kinesiologist. And I'm like, wow. I mean, she's talking about, these energy clearings and that traumas are sort of imprinted in our muscles, which I had told Frank that that's what had happened to him. I mean, I'm like, wow. And I keep going to the back of the book to read her citations and back and forth. I am in back of the book and there's her name, Deborah Green. And where does she live? Maui. Hawaii.
No.
Only does she live in Maui, but she lives on Kihei Road, and that is where we had rented our condo.
No.
So now what are you gonna do? Is this like, oh my, what a coincidence? No, on that layover, I contacted her and I told her, was her availability, and she gave me two times, and I said I have to talk to my husband first. So I go, Frank, look, Maui, Kihei Road. I said, if you agree to a reading, I said it'll be my Christmas present, and he's like, well, I guess it's meant to be. Okay. So I say, okay. Now, okay, okay. And so we go to have the reading. It was 2 hours each. And I remember asking him later, I said, so what did you think? Because he was blinking loud, oh, just very quickly. He says, I think there's something to this. And I said, well, what? So tell me your reaction. He goes, I can't, he was processing.
Yeah. Yeah.
3 days later, he tells me what I had been telling him all along, but it had to come from the expert. Jackie, that was in 2009. Frank has not had one anger episode since. I am married to my dream guy.
You're kidding me. Wow.
I mean, am I lucky? No, I mean, really, it was very easy to just not even think about actually contacting her. And that's where the action takes it. That's when it starts working. But honestly, I could be flying any of the 360 degrees.
Yeah.
How is it number one, I picked that book? Because if I had had time to select, I would not have chosen that.
Right.
I didn't have any time. I pulled that book. I'm reading it, and this is what is presented to me. And that saved my marriage. So maybe these two wonderful things that happened before my wedding or at my wedding, they're wonderful. They're just as big, but saving my marriage gives it more importance, that these three coincidences. So that is how it's been for me.
So there are a lot of people saying miracles don't happen to me, Sophia. Why is that? Am I not listening? Am I not worthy? What is it?
Well, it is how you perceive a miracle. Okay. I was invited to a book club where the members all had read the first book. And this woman stands up and she goes, you know, I want those things to happen to me and they don't. And I said, well, can you think of anything that like maybe you wasn't expecting and surprised you and kind of she goes, well, yeah, my son, has had this sort of behavioral thing at school and nothing would work. And then coincidentally, I found out about this behavioral person and he ended up going and now he's just getting all A's. Oh, and then my husband, and then she tells me this. I said, you just told me two miracles that happened to you. So it's or coincidence, because people have asked me, well, how do you know when to take action? You just know. It's like the wedding ring. It was like you just, you take action. Now that was forced on me. Okay, being disarmed because divine intelligence knew that I needed something very dramatic for me to take action. So that's how I would respond to that.
Do you believe science will eventually catch up to spirituality?
Oh my God, it already has. Scientists are now interested in both of my books. So there's this group of esteemed scientists in the UK, and it's called the Scientific and Medical Network. And people need to look this up. So all of these scientists study the paranormal. And they invited me to join their group as the only non-scientist, non-academic, and help plan and participate in the Synchronicity Summit. Now, I knew that scientists were studying consciousness.
Uh-huh.
I had no clue that they also studied synchronicity or coincidence. And it's trending. So it was very trendy. And it was so well received that they published a book of essays from these scientists. And the book was called The Playful Universe. And I'm chapter 17. However, the scientists were not showing any interest in the second book.
Why is that?
Okay, so, perfect example. Have you heard of Dr. Eben Alexander, who wrote Proof of Heaven?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a perfect example. So he read my book, my first, loved it. And when he found out that I was writing a second book, he asked me if I would send him my manuscript so that he could endorse the book. I'm sure. Well, I get a response back from him. I'm sorry, I cannot endorse your book because there's no discussion. There's not sufficient discussion of consciousness. That was total BS. Deborah Green, who did the readings for us,
Yeah.
she wrote the foreword to the second book, and it's all about consciousness. But what that also was a code for, oh, I'm a neurosurgeon. I can almost die, go to heaven, come back, and write about it because it's an NDE, near death experience. And near death experiences have been researched for decades. But I can't touch your subject with a 10-foot pole.
Mm.
Well, lucky for me, just before publication, a new field of study cropped up. ADC, after death communication. And now the scientists are, it's it's in nascent, it's in the nascent stage. But my book's already written. So when it becomes the trend, there it is.
There you
So
go.
it's and the book The Playful Universe, those a lot of those essays are, they read almost like religious conversions. Like, I was a materialistic scientist, and then these events have convinced me that, there's something bigger, there's some, and so they're catching up.
Wow. So let's talk about life after death for a second, because you've explained consciousness beyond death. And what's the most compelling evidence, in your opinion, that life continues after the body is gone?
All of my stories could not have happened had we just really die. Okay. And then poof, we're not there. I'm going to give you two examples of two communications that happened after my book was published.
From the other side?
Communications from the other side.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one I consider to be an unsolicited, spontaneous communication. The second one that happened to somebody else. The second one, I asked for it and I got it. And I'd like to get your opinion on it. I'd like you to see, you know, would you agree with me after you hear these two stories? So I go to my ophthalmologist and I told her about the second book. And she says, well, I have a story for you. I go, okay, let's have it. She said, I had to go to a gala with my husband. And I did not want to go to the gala because I was dead tired after a full day of surgeries, but we had to go to this gala. So go to the gala, and after the gala, I had to drive the babysitter home because it's my husband's rule never to be alone with a female babysitter. And she goes, I was coming back home when I heard my grandmother scream, wake up! And she said, I came to and I was heading into a brick building. and she had just enough time to put the brakes on. She was unconscious. And so, I mean, was it a dream? So what if it was a dream? It saved her life. And she said, and I knew it was my grandmother because she would get this high-pitched voice when she got panicky. Okay? So that's the first one. Unsolicited. Okay, so about 6 months ago, I lost one of my oldest and dearest friends. The kind of friend that you just accept that you're just going to grow and be old ladies together, you know? And she died from a heart attack. And this woman, I mean, she was the most global person. She was kind of like Bucky, you know? She was of East Indian descent. Was raised in South Africa. Her brothers lived in Australia, so she would travel there. Her undergraduate degree was from the University of Edinburgh, PhD from Penn over here in Pennsylvania, University of Pennsylvania. And she just knew all these ambassadors. And one time she came to visit and took me to New York to visit her friend, Gloria Steinem. I mean, she was just hooked in. And lucky for me, we had the most wonderful FaceTime visit 2 days before her heart attack, when she told me that she loved me and I was her sister. So, so this, I don't know how long ago this was, but I'm walking down the street thinking of her. And I'm thinking of her and thinking of her. And then I found myself saying, Pushpa, if there's anybody who's going to give me a sign, it's you. I said, maybe it's too soon, but when you're ready, I want a sign from you. Jackie, I swear to you, the very next morning, I received a Facebook friend request from her.
Oh,
Now, now it has happened. It has happened where someone who's already a friend kind of pops up and wants to be your friend, but they're not in the picture.
yeah.
You know, you want to hack your account or something.
Right, right.
Your picture was there. But that's not even the point. The point is, I just asked her for a sign. From, my 600 friends, she's the one that pops up the very next morning with her picture there.
Well,
So what is
earlier, what do I think? I believe it. I believe it.
when I recorded my book, I recorded the second book first, Consciousness Beyond Death. And I swear to you, I am reading this and I just can't believe it. That I mean, all of these are true stories. And the byline is true stories of science, messages, and timing. Do I have time to tell you one quick one?
You do. We're having such a good time. You do, of course.
Okay. So there were two stories that I remember right now that I was told, one by my nephew, and he could not tell me why he hadn't told me the story before, and one my best friend. I think that is one of that story in the book is one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard, honestly. So, but I'll tell you the one with my nephew that he told me just before I was going to send this for publication.
Yeah.
He says, I haven't told you this. Well, because we were talking about, my book and everything. And so when his son was a year and a half, okay, my mother had died. Okay. So grandma in Greek is yaya. Okay. That's the way you actually pronounce it in Greek. But Greek Americans call their grandmothers yaya. Okay. So my nephew called her yaya because that's what she demanded.
Yeah.
So he said, I was feeding him in the kitchen and I had to do the little airplane thing so that, to egg him on to eat. And, he's doing it and he's looking. And then he said, all of a sudden, he looks past my left ear and his chin dropped. His eyes got like silver dollars. And then he starts giggling. and giggling and giggling. And I said, Teddy, what are you, what are you seeing? And he goes, yeah, yeah. She introduced herself to him. There is no way. He said he never said that to him, what he called his grandmother. He was a year and a half old. And, but he said it was the facial, I mean, it was like, what are you seeing?
Yeah.
And doing something funny to him, apparently. And he is, so his son now is 12, and he is very proud that the story is in my book.
Well, of course he is. Of course he is. And it's so touching. And I believe it too, by the way. So I have one more question. I know we've been speaking for a while, but it's been such a good conversation. At this point in your journey, if you had to summarize everything that you've learned in one sentence, what would it be?
Okay, in one sentence, I want to guarantee everyone that you are not alone. You are just not alone. And not only are you not alone, but you have a whole cheerleading group in back of you. And these stories, these events are for everyone truly. I just happened to have, from a very young age, this mind opening that I can communicate with unseen beings. But this is all accessible to everyone.
Ugh, Sophia, thank you so much for being on the show. What a pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure was mine. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Wow, what an incredible conversation with Sophia. I'm calling her the miracle lady. If there's one thing we're taking away from today's conversation, it's that miracles aren't just rare mystical events. They're happening all around us, waiting for us to recognize them. If you love this episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and follow. And check out her books too: The Divine Language of Coincidence: How Miracles Transformed My Life After I Began Paying Attention, and her second book, Consciousness Beyond Death. And as always, remember, self awareness is the key to unlocking your full potential. See you next time. I'm Jackie Denise.